Hello, dickheads! It's your main ass slapper, the old dirty bastard himself, Cody J. Here to savage your news hole with some truth. Hope you can handle all the real shit and liberally deployed four-letter words I'm about to drizz up on your fizz-ace. Like how being a conservative these days is like being Jewish during Hitler times. Also, feminism and racism are the same and fake and were created by unnamed rich people to destroy Western civilization. Triggered much? So yeah, here's some f***ing news. This video is brought to you by an advertiser. Okay, so, got an ad. Sorry. I'll clean it up, I promise. Although, maybe the financial incentive of getting canceled outweighs whatever advertiser is paying to get me to say to buy their product. Should I get canceled? What does the term even mean? Well, the short answer is like 10 different things and also f***ing nothing at all. We actually did a video about this a couple of years ago. It focused mostly on celebrities whining about being canceled on massive platforms while having millions of dollars and continuing their careers. It's why the term uses the word cancel, as in a show getting canceled. It was born from entertainment. In the video about that aspect of it, I briefly reference another side of the coin, which is people, normal people, losing their jobs for various transgressions, or getting dogpiled and harassed online for some dumb f***ing thing they said. We will come back to that. But the original point was that in a lot of ways, cancel culture is the result of powerful people with large platforms finally hearing more criticism and hating it. That wasn't always the case, but now, powerless or struggling people, or just random assholes, can tell their congressperson or Ritz crackers to go f*** themselves. And boy, did the Republican Party f***ing zero in on that one. Yes, conservatives have turned the phrase cancel culture into the scariest two words in the English language besides mayonnaise candy, and it is all in service of the most elaborate grift known to man. Instead of getting fired for saying anti-Semitic things on social media, Gina Carano can, instead of saying she didn't realize it was anti-Semitic and apologizing and being like, okay, I represent my employer, I'll cool it, I guess. Well, now she can instead claim that she was removed from The Mandalorian for being too real, whatever that means. You know what's actually too real? The flying scenes in Avatar. How did they pull that off? Computers? Doubtful. Cancel culture has become the Republican Party's biggest boogeyman, and the only part of their platform anyone seems to care about. Now, you can see this from just, looking around, but also because they literally say that that's what it is. It is their plan for the 22 midterms. The left got a little too PC, so it's time you change all of your opinions about the economy, social issues, systemic racism, healthcare, and history. But literally, that is their plan. As former Trump White House aide Mercedes Schlapp put it, at the end of the day, I think it unifies the party, but expands it into the area we need to. The suburban moms, the college-educated men that we struggled with in 2020, there's common ground with these constituencies. It's a tale as old as time, honestly. Find people who don't necessarily agree with them on social issues, but are sympathetic to them, and then balloon the censorious Orwellian political correctness gone amok to get people on your reasonable side. Yes, it was cancel culture to criticize the president's daughter for some dumb f***ing tweet about Goya beans. Cancel culture is ISIS, a disclaimer from the f***ing Muppets about some racially insensitive material, not pulling it or censoring it, but a disclaimer before showing the whole thing. That's cancel culture. They canceled the Muppets that I can watch after having to read, this program includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversations to create a more inclusive future together. They canceled me not reading that. Impeaching a president is constitutional cancel culture. Major League Baseball moving a game from a state? Cancel culture. Boycotting South African apartheid? Probably cancel culture. The American Revolution? You bet your ass that's a cancel culture. Andrew Cuomo being called on to resign after multiple sexual harassment complaints? Motherfucking cancel culture. Some fucking chart? Cancel culture. Turning off a lamp? You've canceled light. A stop sign? Well, that cancels going. The specter of cancel culture, as most people frame it, is a political tool for politicians and a money tool for entertainers. It is their greatest grift. Cancel culture is more lucrative than Pokemon cards, NBA Top Shot, Beanie Babies, and Funko Pops put together. Funky Mon B-Abies. Of course, if you're Gina Carano, you can do both. She's probably got a basement full of Cara Dune Funkos that will be worth a fortune in 5 years. But outrage, you can always monetize that. Just ask our old friend Ben Shapiro.
And this is kind of a fascinating poll because it asks Republicans and Democrats what they think are the biggest problems facing the United States. What are the biggest problems? Of all the problems facing the United States, which ones are the biggest? And this explains where the future of the culture war is going. Because the reality is that we cannot have a country together if half of the country would like for the other half of the country to just go away, or if half of the country sees the other half of the country as a true and ever-present threat to their liberties, or if it turns out that some people actually are a true and ever-present threat to their liberties.
For once, I agree, kind of, with Ben Shapiro. Incredible. Yes, he's right. We can't have a country where half the country hates the other half. Except, well, if we all got along, how would Ben Shapiro be able to sell you gold?
I don't need to get into the social ramifications, but fiscally, you can expect compounded growth of the national debt and the systematic devaluation of the United States dollar over time. So there really is only one question. What are you doing right now to protect your savings and your retirement? Now, I know the people at Birch Gold. I trust the people at Birch Gold. I've been working with the people at Birch Gold for literally years at this point.
Ben Shapiro is right that politicians and media figures on both sides weaponize your anger and use that negative energy for their own personal gain. He is intimately familiar with both weaponizing this practice and pretending he takes no part in it. And yet, that is exactly what Ben Shapiro and people like him have to do to convince people to part with their money. It's a lot harder to sell boner pills, precious metals, a mug labeled as the tears of your political enemies, or tinfoil diapers when you aren't wetting yourself with terror at the thought of what the other side is going to do if they're in power. This was the great lesson of our dearly departed America's sweetheart, Rush Limbaugh.
There are very few people in this world that create an entire industry. Elvis, you know, the king of rock and roll. Even the Beatles followed Elvis, you know.
Thank you, Rush Limbaugh! What a trailblazer he was. Rush was exactly like Elvis. If Elvis became famous calling college students sluts on a nationally broadcast radio show instead of, you know, playing the guitar.
For 2 days, Rush Limbaugh has eviscerated Sandra Fluke on the radio.
What does it say about the college co-ed Susan Fluke, who goes before a congressional committee and essentially says that she must be paid to have sex? What does that make her? It makes her a slut, right?
Rush Limbaugh absolutely was a pioneer, in that he made that level of toxic discourse acceptable in the United States of America and around the world. The so-called cancel culture, or political correctness, could not thrive in America without its polar opposite, the slovenly, hateful rhetoric of the right-wing media machine flinging its fetid bodily fluids through the bars of its prison cell like Miggs from Silence of the Lambs. Do we have a clip? No, we're not doing that? Okay. A posturing of truth-telling in the face of PC culture as an excuse to be racist, homophobic, sexist, etc. The PC police don't want you to, you know, laugh and celebrate when people die of AIDS. Oh, and here's a passage from one of his books from literally almost 30 years ago, complaining about college students protesting on campus and Jesse Jackson and Marxists. And also, you know, he lies about it. The idea that the left is using cancel culture or political correctness or cultural Marxism and mob tactics to destroy Western civilization is prevalent today, yes. But again, it's old news. Check out this f***ing clip from the 90s.
For the first time, Americans today are not free to say what they think. If they say something deemed offensive or insensitive or, worst of all, hate speech, they may be in serious trouble. They may be punished for violating the unholy commandments of the 90s, commonly known as political correctness. But is political correctness a new phenomenon? We'll show you tonight that political correctness has been in the making for more than 8 decades. And it seems that a deteriorating society is exactly what political correctness strives for. But just what is political correctness? As you're about to see, political correctness is nothing less than a Marxist ideology. Marxism translated from economic into cultural terms in an effort going back not to the 1960s, but to World War I.
That's William Lind of the Free Congress Foundation and one of the key spreaders of the anti-Semitic cultural Marxism conspiracy theory, Frankfurt School, all that. I won't share the whole video, but it's virtually indistinguishable from the stuff these twerps talk about now. Cancel culture, critical race theory, the destruction of the West. Not new, just boring. Now, I could make some tortured analogies about Batman and the Joker here, how the two bumbling, ideologically incoherent factions of American politics need each other to continue draining every last living soul in this nation of their dignity, self-respect, and their paychecks. But I won't. I'm not going to say that Democrats are Batman, impotently mumbling moral platitudes while never actually making anything tangibly better. I'm not going to tell you that Republicans are the Joker, only focused on huffing paint, making memes, and setting a big pile of money on fire to own the libs. I'm not going to do that. I'm not here to make someone else's movie. No, I've already released a feature-length video about other people's films. Today, I announced that I am going to write and direct the greatest movie ever made about cancel culture, which will simultaneously get me canceled, allowing me to make yet another film about my persecution. The title of this movie is Harold and Kumar Say the N-Word, and it is repulsive. There's all kinds of awful stuff in it. Also, I've recast Harold and Kumar with Kevin Sorbo and Rob Schneider, and I forgot that this video is sponsored, so maybe it's Harold and Kumar Say Black Lives Matter. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Why does cancel culture exist in the first place? Rush Limbaugh wasn't the first person in the world to combine moral outrage with antisocial, hateful rhetoric. We have to go all the way back to the Red Scare of post-war America to see the first full flowering of this tactic within mass media. I'm sure we had tabloid journalism, thanks to people like William Randolph Hearst using their publishing empires to vilify anyone or anything they didn't agree with. But the hysteria around communist infiltration of American society was one of the earliest, most blatant attempts by the right to take people's rights away for their beliefs. The Communist Control Act of 1954, signed by Republican President Dwight Eisenhower, criminalized any participation in communist organizations. This unambiguously sought to take away the rights of American citizens purely for what they believed. The Communist Control Act is pretty much unenforceable because it's barely constitutional, but it served its purpose, scaring people into submission. The conventional wisdom is that all that anti-communist hysteria went away after the shame of the McCarthy hearings made America wake up to the dangers of policing people's political views. Except it never did. It simply became the big business it is today. We put each other on trial every day, on 24-hour news, on social media, and on podcasts. No one actually believes anything they say either. Ann Coulter can say all manner of awful shit about Jewish people, but Jewish man Ben Shapiro lets that slide off his comically narrow shoulders because something Israel. If she weren't on his team, I suspect he would maybe react differently. But really, ultimately, cancel culture exists because it's always existed. Societies have shared values and judgments on those who don't share those values, and there are social consequences for those who transgress. I'm not saying that's good or bad, just that that's how it is and always has been. The right likes to shout, cancel culture, because they can't actually explicitly address the purported transgressions of values, usually the value of anti-bigotry. Take the exhausting Dr. Seuss debacle, and yes, that's how it's pronounced, do not cancel me. Dr. Seuss's estate decided to discontinue some of his books due to some insensitive racial stereotypes. This wasn't at the request or demand of the woke mob or the Democrats, it was just a decision that his estate made. Now, I don't necessarily agree with just not publishing the books anymore. Something like the Muppets disclaimer could work, replacing the offending illustration with something better and an explanation. I don't know, but it was their decision. I'm pointing to this because it's a perfect example of using cancel culture to mask the actual issue. No Republican actually ever referenced the images from the Seuss books. Ted Cruz fundraised off it by selling signed copies of Green Eggs and Ham, a book that is still available for purchase and was not one of the pulled books in question. He and they had to keep referencing Green Eggs and Ham because they couldn't look at the racist stereotypes and say, "That's good, I like it." They had to obfuscate it by saying, "The left wants to cancel Dr. Seuss." Again, there are real problems with the vague, non-term cancel culture and how it can affect real working people. But for the most part, it is a marketing gimmick a brand, a cudgel, and a shield. It's the same thing as when Congressman Jim Jordan goes on Fox News to complain that he can't speak, or somebody going on a national tour called Censored, or whatever the If your career is built around saying things only to upset people, you can and will say anything with no thought to what it means or why you are saying it other than for the illicit thrill of being an asshole. That thrill of saying basically nothing can also electrify the careers of musicians the whole world forgot exist, like Ariel Pink and John Mouse, who escaped a very bad indie movie soundtrack from 2010 long enough to attend the Capitol insurrection, or the random guy from Mumford & Sons who recently tweeted his love of fascist propagandist Andy Ngo's book. Not only is this man perpetuating dangerous rhetoric, he's not that Mumford guy's son at all! I hate racism, but I hate false advertising even more. When was the last time anyone talked about Mumford & Sons or Ariel Pink anyway? Who was the last person to say how much they loved the Mumford & Sons song they heard in the changing room at Target? I don't know, but I hope I never run into this person in a dark alley. These people go on Fox News, cry about how their lives are ruined, then indoctrinate thousands of people who follow whatever the right-wing media tells them to do into being their fans in the most transparently performative way possible. There are people on Twitter saying they will pretend to like Mumford & Sons now. Hey buddy, newsflash, we've all been pretending to like Mumford & Sons this whole time. All those chart-topping records, yeah, that was a bit. Joke's on you, guy. There can be no real cancellation as long as outlets exist for all of these poor souls to blather on about their persecution complexes while collecting checks from rubes. So if cancellation is a complete myth, then why do corporations like Disney bother firing actors like Gina Carano? What's the point? Money. It's money, you fools. Corporations make decisions not because of wokeness or that they're doing a Marxism. It's because of money. They make decisions they think are profitable. Everybody wants money. In fact, speaking of money. Hey, what's orange and sounds like a parrot? A carrot. And if you want to hear sounds that, not to call out bird owners or anything, it's just the words rhyme, that's all. Sorry to birds and bird lovers. But if you want to hear good sounds, not that parrots are bad sounds. I'm sorry. I'm trying to tell you about how we teamed up with Raycon, and they're offering everyone watching this video 15% off your order. Just click on the link in the description box. So these Raycon earbuds, great con, more like it. It's premium wireless audio for half of the price. Totes affordable. Extremely clear sound. They look great and come in a variety of colors and patterns with no pesky wires dangling down. And they feel great, and I love having them inside of me. Not like in like a sex way. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be blue here. I just think these headphones are really comfortable, and that's pretty important. Also important that they have a 45-day free return policy, which is 180 cycles of playtime, or 6 hours. And again, feel great all up in there. Not in a sex way. You know, if you have them in your ear a lot, like me, and like music and relaxing and being calm and culturally sensitive, and not in a sex way, which is good. We're having fun. Everything is fun and clean because of these headphones that I love and will do just whatever for. I'm a team player is my point. I'm flexible, like these Raycon earbuds. You put them in your ears, go to the link below for a deal. Or go to buyraycon.com/some news. We're cool, right? Like, hey, get these Raycon earbuds. They're wonderful and sound really good. Not like parrots. Damn, I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep going back to parrots. I'm sorry. Did you click on the link? Please click on the link and enjoy the show. That's America. That ad could have been done by anyone. I hate to break it to all of you aspiring actors out there, but you actually don't matter that much. You can be replaced with an adorable puppet child tomorrow. In fact, that cute green monster baby is more important to the bottom line of Disney than you ever will be. Do you think they want to alienate their fans at a time when they are making only $70 gajillion a year instead of 80? Did you see Rise of Skywalker? Disney made J.J. Abrams direct a nearly 3-hour apology for the last Star Wars movie because seeing an Asian person in space made nerds feel funny. Right-wing mobs on social media basically tried to cancel Kelly Marie Tran for daring to be in Star Wars back when The Last Jedi came out. The experience was so harrowing that she basically had to stop working and hide from the public. Now you could say that sounds like she was canceled, but you can't be canceled for just existing. What we're talking about there is racism, pure and simple. While we debate whether or not the f***ing Muppets got canceled, racism and abuse against Asian Americans is on the rise. Ben Shapiro is right that we can't exist as a nation divided, but as long as we continue using that division for personal gain and put money above humanity, we will continue to rage spiral into oblivion. After getting, big quotes, canceled by Disney, fired from one acting job, Gina Carano got picked up by the Daily Wire, Ben's website, and they hate cancel culture so much that they uncancel people for you. They uncancel Gina and Candace Owens. They're uncancelable because they're so talented? Or because they're the right amount of outrage and attention. I mean, after all, according to these fine folks, she was just speaking her mind. Disney caved and don't believe in free speech. It's fascism to not want someone associated with your brand. This here was the setup. The punchline being that Ben Shapiro, via DM, asked a contributor to remove the Daily Wire from her bio after she sent homophobic tweets. His reasoning, and I quote, was, "The issue here is our brand and your association with it given your comments." It's all fake to these people. They know it. They literally admit it.
I don't think that the central feature of cancel culture and PC and political correctness, I don't think it's a battle between free speech and censorship so much as it's a battle between competing sets of standards. So, of course, we all think that there should be accountability. You know, in the 1950s, if you openly espoused communism, you would be canceled in Hollywood or in the federal government, and I think that's perfectly right and just. The question here is, what are people being canceled for?
According to the Daily Wire's Michael Knowles, cancel culture is good, you see. About the commies specifically, I guess. In fact, the Red Scare was, and I quote, perfectly right and just. It's also interesting that Michael Knowles has an upcoming book about political correctness called Speechless, Controlling Words and Minds. So, I don't know, don't buy it, which is censoring, probably. Anyway, like I said, it's all fake. The hypocrisy is on the walls. Here's Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn talking about how the Democrats are doing cancel culture on steroids. And here she is in a congressional hearing, asking the CEO of Google about an employee who criticized her. Quote, "He has had very unkind things to say about me, and I was just wondering if you all had still kept him working there." Barry Wise hates cancel culture and professors getting fired, but she spent her college days attacking professors for being racist. Alan Dershowitz, author of Cancel Culture, the latest attack on free speech and due process, got a Yale psychiatrist fired because she tweeted about his grandiosity. CPAC canceled a speaker for anti-Semitism. That MyPillow guy hates cancel culture, loves free speech, so much that he's starting a new free speech social media platform that will ban swearing and taking the Lord's name in vain because it's a Judeo-Christian platform. Fox News' head exploded and tried to cancel Lil Nas X.
What's most outrageous is the timing of this. It was intentionally dropped on the eve of Holy Week. Try this with any other religious group than Christians during their holy days, and Nas might find himself sliding down that pole for real. This is desperate and really pathetic. This is desperate and really pathetic.
This type of cancel culture, the celebrity, politician, pundit version, it's complete bullshit. No consistent meaning, pointless. But there are a few other things going on. For one, I mentioned the dogpiling of random people until they go offline or get ostracized from their community, and in some cases are harmed. This is maybe not a very healthy practice, and actually seems to be more related to Twitter specifically as a platform, and how it encourages engagement and sends out trending topics. Twitter is very good at establishing a main character of the day, as people dunk on or harass someone for a bad or silly opinion. Other platforms don't really have this phenomenon because of how they're laid out. As someone who recently got ratioed for a bad movie opinion put it, you're repurposed as fodder for content generation in a way that's just so dehumanizing. I don't really believe in cancel culture. I think it's a platform failure. It's an enhancement of some of our worst impulses, a promotion of toxic and abusive behavior by people who feel powerless and alienated in this f***ing world. And oftentimes, peppered in with that harassment is the actual legitimate criticism. But they're conflated and happen simultaneously, so which ones do people focus on? Which ones negatively affect people more and stick with them? This lets freaks and culture war weirdos like Ted Cruz conflate that with his stupid bullshit, pretending to care about the little guy and the woke mob, when really he just wants to make a quick buck off of green eggs and ham. It muddies this entire conversation, rendering it pointless, meaningless, and silly. But also, if you're going to have it, it requires nuance that nobody is actually willing to engage in. Because, as my best friend Michael Knowles and I have mentioned, this is just society. Societies have values, and they are dependent on many, many things. Certain values are shunned, others are encouraged. The question is, what are those values, and what should the consequences be? Do we want to live in a punitive society, or do we believe in restorative justice? In our previous cancel culture episode, one thing we hit on is the idea of accountability, owning up, apologizing, and I mean really apologizing. And on one side, there's work to be done on accepting apologies if they seem genuine. On the other side, there's the need to not conflate the bad faith toxic destruction game with real criticism. Find people on both sides! Which brings us to what's been sort of bubbling under this whole episode. The firings. Not of some fucking actor or a politician being asked to resign, but like, just people. I've already given examples, but there are many. On both sides. Teachers, random workers, all kinds of people for being racist, for being anti-racist, for being misunderstood. It's framed as a problem of the left, because the left doesn't have the infrastructure to complain about it every fucking day, or the interest in doing that. And as we've already discussed, the right has had infrastructure focused on that for decades. Regarding this, let's talk to our good friend Bill Maher, who's politically incorrect was once literally canceled from television, though I'm going to guess he's actually doing fine now, via one of his recent famously well-researched segments. In the segment, Bill Maher, who hates cancel culture but also took credit for the canceling of Milo Yiannopoulos for some reason, once again talks about cancel culture and brings it just a butthole hairs away from really getting to a point. He brings up that this isn't about celebrities and millionaires getting criticized or losing jobs only to get other jobs and staying millionaires. It's not about Republican grievances. It's about...
Cancel culture is real, it's insane, and it's growing exponentially, and it's coming to a neighborhood near you. If you think it's just for celebrities, no.
Bill mentions, in like a fucking sentence, that this isn't about celebrities being canceled or Republicans, it's about ordinary people getting fired from their jobs for misunderstandings. And after that one line, he talks for the entire rest of the segment for 5 minutes about
Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, Pebbles, The Mandalorian's Gina Carano, Chris Harrison's turn in the barrel.
Celebrities. He's still fucking talking about people criticizing celebrities or writing them off. Because he doesn't like criticism. Because he's a celebrity. He gives a little morsel of real people are affected by this, and then just complains about people making comments about Justin Timberlake. Instead of citing one example about the OK symbol that paints the entire left as some illogical woke mob, he could have mentioned other people on the left and the right who have lost their jobs. And like, what could be done beyond his thesis, which is don't apologize for things. There's a whole website of canceled people who've lost their jobs, if you're into that. Interesting to note about that site, many of the examples aren't people who were dogpiled or that the woke mob demanded to be fired. It's people fired for transgressions of values by their bosses internally. Maybe a good opportunity to talk about at-will employment and how maybe it should be harder to fire people for like whatever fucking reason. Maybe a good opportunity to talk about how we tie healthcare to employment. So losing your job is actually a health concern. Could talk about the negative mental health effects of online bullying. Or he could talk about criticism of Justin Timberlake. That's fun too, I guess. Side note, at one point, Bill gives a made-up example of a transgression.
Someone had a Confederate flag in their dorm room in 1990 and you didn't do anything?
Because he just likes making up scenarios to get mad at. But it weirdly mirrors this speech from George H.W. Bush in 1991, complaining about political correctness. One example was, quote, at Harvard, 2 students who hung a Confederate flag out a dormitory window were denounced by black students. Seems really fucking reasonable, Bill. Tale as old as time. As depressing as the land before time. He follows it up with this.
You laughed at a Woody Allen movie?
A complaint nobody actually has, and if they do, they'd probably get bullied online for it. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. I guess cancel culture isn't real. It's not a thing. It's a meaningless term, but it's also technically real in other ways that the people who complain about cancel culture don't care about. And if we could retire the term and the vague bullshit concept, that would be great, while also furthering the conversation about what our values are, how we as a society enforce those values or reject those values, or interact with people in that same society who don't share those values, how we achieve accountability, how we determine consequences, how maybe if the solution is fire the person, we should also be a society which effectively houses and feeds people and provides health care regardless of employment. So, I don't know, I guess this is the end of the episode. I didn't get canceled. Kind of a bummer. Could use the extra cash and the career boost. You know what? Here we go. Interior. Any room. Kumar and his friend Harold sit in a room. Harold opens his mouth. Harold. Never mind. Just gonna cancel this script idea. Hey everybody, thanks for watching the video. I'm sorry about all the things I said, or I'm not sorry. I haven't decided yet if I'm sorry or not, but I'm sorry, and I'm not. So make sure to like and subscribe if you like apologies and being like getting offensive, but also apologies about it. And also, yeah, I said subscribe already, so sorry for saying it again. Leave a comment that cancels me, or don't, or do. Also, we've got a Patreon.com/some more news, and we got merch with Warmbo on it. We love that guy. And we've got a TikTok, we've got a podcast called Even More News, and we've got an upcoming movie that's bad. So